So the Wrong Object started in 2002, at a time when I was experimenting with collage techniques, and we were gathering musical objects, which we were ordering in different ways so as to create a composition. So that's the origin of the name. We started to do Zappa covers before the band was even called The Wrong Object. And we were never a full-time Zappa cover band, but we were required to play Zappa tributes from time to time. And we still are. But the thing is that as years went by, and I'm referring to the period that stretches from 2004 to 2006, we began to play sets which mixed Zappa covers and our own stuff, which was at the time basically my own compositions. After the exhibition, our new CD is relatively different from what the rest of our discography is all about. The addition of Antoine Guenet on keyboards and a new bass player, Pierre Motet, on bass, François Lourti and Martimilia on saxophones. They cover the whole family, the whole saxophone family, in fact. And the addition also of Benoît Morlin's vibes and Susan Klein's vocals made it a very different record from the rest of the band's discography, in the sense that it is, I think, much more, much richer in terms of harmonies and more rock-oriented in many ways. Also, the other novelty is that I'm no longer the only composer for the band. Every single member of the band, almost every single member of the band, has or will contribute songs in the future. And we're planning to collaborate, to extend that collaboration with Susan and Benoît in the near future. So perhaps hopefully there will be more songs in future Wrong Object albums. So the first collaboration we did with a Canterbury scene member was the collaboration with Elton Dean, which happened in a way which is quite strange, because we were supposed to play gigs, a series of gigs with Lowell Coxhill, who's also Canterbury affiliated, obviously. But Lowell couldn't make it. And almost at the very last minute, a month before we had to play those gigs, Lowell withdrew because of his bad leg and various health problems. And so I thought to myself, okay, who's going to do it? Because we need someone whose name rings a bell and who's going to keep the promoters happy. So I pulled myself together, and I grabbed the phone, and I called Elton Dean, whom I never met before. And Elton suggested that I send him some charts. And I had written a number of pieces, especially for that thing we were doing with Lowell, and he liked them. And he said, okay, well, we can do that collaboration. I can play those gigs, no problem. I can learn your stuff. And then I immediately said, okay, well, why don't we do something with you? Like, we play your songs and you play my songs, and we're going to build a repertoire around that. And we, unfortunately, because of Elton's poor health, we could only do one official concert with him, which was luckily documented. It's the Paris concert, which was my first Moonjune release, The Unbelievable Truth. Sadly, Elton died 4 or 5 months later, but he still had the opportunity to listen to the live mix. And it was, he liked it very much because he knew he had played very well, extremely well. Having worked with Elton, it became easier and easier to collaborate with other people. And I called upon various members of the Canterbury scene, starting with Harry Beckett, who worked with Robert Wyatt, Annie Whitehead, who's also affiliated with the scene because of her collaboration with Robert Wyatt, which in turn led to another band called Comico Operando, which is a Wyatt tribute band, which still exists and with which I hope to tour again pretty soon. There were other encounters. I The first time I met Benoît Morlin was when we were trying to recruit a vibraphone player for a band called The Moving Tones. He began to play solos, began to improvise and feel more and more at ease with the band's music, so that we ended up playing 4 songs live with Benoît in the studio. Some of the compositions on this new record are, I think, widely acknowledged by critics as being as having affinities with the music of Gong. I also did some work with Richard Sinclair of Hatfield and North, which was, with the Soft Machine, my favorite Canterbury band by far. By opposing 2 different traditions within the dynamics of a single band, by opposing rock and jazz influences rather than blending them into a kind of weird mixture where you can't recognize the ingredients anymore. Hatfield and the North is a perfect example of that. Richard Sinclair, songwriter, basically who's moving towards jazz and jazz rock, and of course the influence of the other members, which were leaning more towards the progressive jazz tradition. So I'm so happy I made that discovery, because it really determined the rest of my musical ventures. I think the reason why I found that scene so fascinating was because of the peculiar mixture of Britishness, which was something exotic to me as a Belgian, and American and European jazz influences, the pastoral quality of, say, Caravan's music, and the fact that they were bringing in more and more jazz influences in the process. I'm referring to the Soft Machine and Hatfield and the North. And I think Hatfield and the North and Matching Mole and National Health, all these short-lived bands, for me, embody the essence of what jazz rock should be about.